Have you ever thought of the phrase less is more? Hmm. Well, I think it's something that I've kind of been attracted to in my personal experience. Um, it kind of got me thinking that the more I have, uh, the less I live, maybe. Um, but then again, I think too, it could be more of an attachment. I'm thinking that if I have more stuff, then I will be a slave. Hmm. Okay, so I'm kind of just having this conversation because it has brought up the idea that um, more bills, less freedom, more stuff, less time, because you got to care for it, take care of it. Or, I don't know, kind of like maybe free flow. I had well, actually, let me put it this way. Years ago, I had a house that was about 2,000 square feet plus, and had a lot of stuff in it. And then I decided I was going to downsize, and downsizing went down to about 1,000 square feet. And that was a lot freeing. And then years later after that, I went down to 450 square feet. And then went back up to about 550 square feet. And I'm just kind of put this in some kind of perspective for you. And you can see perhaps maybe how much furniture I would have reduced down to all the way down to 450 square feet, and then jump back up to 500 square feet. And that's kind of a less more idea. I did have more freedom. I'm not saying go off and get rid of your stuff or anything. I'm just trying to bring this into an idea concept that actually I experienced in my life. And then also understanding, just the capacity of how materialistic things happen in our lives and we manifest. And how sometimes we can get really attached to this stuff. But are we willing to detach ourselves to find freedom? And that's not necessarily with materialistic things. I think it's with everything and anything, like jobs. Not asking or saying to go, your job, but are we able, because as we go through life, we're going through all these different shifts in our life that moves us in and out of situations all the time. And now I'm no longer in a 500 square foot home. Now I'm back to almost 2,000 square feet or plus. And now I have more stuff. But what I'm trying to state is, when we allow ourselves to grow and expand, doesn't mean grow and expand with more stuff, but we can grow and expand in other areas, but reduce our stuff. So it feels like an accordion in a way, because when I was going through all these shifts like that, it made me more aware of what I was really moving through life, with all these experiences. And in the beginning, I was ready to free myself and shed from all this stuff because I had all this stuff. And it did get me a little stressed out because then I had so much stuff I didn't know what to do with. And then I didn't know if I was really upset because then I had to get rid of the stuff. And then, once I got rid of the stuff, all this stuff, and it's okay. We can move through life with stuff and no stuff. But the great part about it is, you know, we're living life and moving through it, and we're not stuck in it. I'm kind of realizing that my life has really evolved in so many areas that I'm wondering if anybody else is evolving, or actually, you know, not quite sure if that's what's happening. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at, or experiencing, or observing in my own personal life is, you know, our evolutional part of us. Are we actually growing with more stuff, or are we growing with more experiences? Are we able to allow ourselves to free ourselves from that stuff, to have more experiences in our lives? I don't know. That's a question, huh? Because now I'm experiencing more life, and I have more stuff. And it's okay to have more stuff. But also, am I attached to my stuff? I can honestly tell you now versus before, I did have a hard time letting go of my stuff. But I didn't know that that stuff was a part of my experience and my life and my memories. But I don't think holding on to stuff is, you know, like my memory. You know I have a little memory box, but I made sure that I didn't keep it and have to carry it across country if I needed to move across country. I have things, but I'm just bringing this up. That's why I have this podcast. I don't know if anybody's going through any of this. And it's really interesting that we're evolving, and if we could evolve with life, with all our experiences. Anyhow, it's just conversation. I mean, we can have it over coffee. We can have this conversation over wine. We can have this conversation over a glass of water. We can have this conversation with a cup of tea. We can have this conversation with whatever. Even just having this conversation just opens up that venue for us to really think about. Less is more, you know, or vice versa. More is less. I don't know, but I can say that I'm really enjoying, you know, having these conversations, because it really opens a new spectrum, or a perspective of just a new idea. I mean, not everybody has to have the same ideas. We don't. Of course not. That would make us boring, or robots. I don't want to be boring or a robot. I just want to talk about stuff that I see, and, you know, I mean, sometimes we think about. And I just wanted to bring it up. Anyhow, it was great having you here. Thanks for listening, for joining, and liking and sharing. Again, this is Vivian with Universe Connection and Universe Connection channel of my YouTube podcast also. And yeah, and best day ever. Peace out.